All right. Okay. Wow. It's been a while. Hello. We are back. Today is March 21st. And we are back with episode 13. It feels like a start of a new season though. Marvels of Audio. Thank y'all everyone. Thank y'all. Um we're going to go over a little bit of a recap real quick before we get into the meat of everything today. But everyone here that's currently in the cafe has this either first time viewers or regulars. For those who don't know why the long break, talked about it over some of it over social media. On New Year's Eve, got into a car crash, really sucked. Car got totaled. So that was a priority. Had to take a second job to get money. Got a new car. Got a really nice car. I'm really happy with the car. So that was priority number one, getting a mode of transportation. And then after that was figuring out transitioning back into working one job rather than two jobs because that was very suffocating and very tiring. Uh, this episode we're going to be talking about today was supposed to be the New Year's episode. Basically, I would talk. It was supposed to be recorded by on the first Friday of the new year. However, it's still appropriate, as in some languages, believe it or not. My friend told me this. I don't remember the language because I was kind of half asleep. But March in some languages translates to first month. And it kind of makes sense because when you're in January and February, a lot of people are like, "Wow, I can't believe it's 2025." It still feels like 2024. And then we get to March, and they're like, "Wow, it's 2025. I can't believe it. I can't believe it." But so this is going to be a bit of a retrospect episode. We're going to be talking about a little bit about my year 2024. I'm just going to go ahead and pop the lid on this. This episode's about adversity and my personal experiences with the challenges I faced in 2024. It really, really sucked. 2024 was an awful year. I got into three crashes. Three crashes. One of them I did go to the hospital for. Turned out a-okay, fit as a fiddle. But still, that's a lot more crashes than anyone should ever go through in a lifetime. You know. Oh, that's what it was. I haven't said that phrase in forever. You're gonna hear that a lot this episode. Very sorry. But and there were a lot of personal challenges. I had to meet a lot of people, cut a lot of people out, make a lot of amends with people I hurt in 2024 or the year before, even. Uh, I spoke briefly in an earlier episode, very early in the season, how I took a road trip to go see a friend down in Colorado. And basically, it was with my sights set on making an apology just to move on as a person and such. It was not an easy trip. It was a very emotional trip, but it worked out just fine. It worked out just fine. However, I went with the total expectation, thinking that I would get the apology, but we still wouldn't come out as friends or anything really. I wouldn't have blamed them if they still resented me for that. What does this all have to do with adversity? Well, these are the challenges I faced. Adversity, you could it's a word. Yeah, words, that's how language works. But it means very differently than for everyone else than what you read in the dictionary. That's just how it works. It's the intentions of these words, it's the context of those words. It's very simple. I'm going to open up with a quote here. We're going to get into our usual little shout outs. And then we're going to hop into what the different media we're talking about today. I was given a quote by a friend. It goes along the lines of adversity causes some men to break and others to break records. And I align with that a lot. Because to me, I don't think adversity is always a challenge, but it is very much an opportunity. Because that's how it works. You're either broken down by it or you conquer it. You get past it. You climb it. You come out a better person. And I want to encourage everyone who ever faces problems to do the best they can. Now, notice I said do the best you can. Not say you have to, get over it. You're not always going to win. You're not always going to get over it. It's not like homework, you know? You don't just solve a few formulas and it's done. That's not how it works. It sucks. But you'll know what I'm talking about if you've ever felt something like that. Like you've tried to fix something, but it doesn't come out exactly as you want. So, we're going to do the shout outs real quick. Remix Audio Bar, North Guadalupe 222, open Wednesday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., 6 to 10 p.m. There's the dinner services. Wednesdays, 7 to 10, over at Cakes Cafe, we have our open mic. It's a beginner's open mic, I like to call it. Very friendly crowd. The host is very easy to talk to. More than happy to get you settled in if you want to get more familiar with a poetry or musical crowd. Also on Wednesdays, here at Remix, there's the Liminal Wednesdays. Runs throughout the most of the dinner service, I believe the entire night. Lots of cool DJ music going on. Pretty popular night. As for the food services, ramen bowls. I highly recommend the ramen bowls. Delicious, fantastic, incredible. Another shout out I want to do is to my friend Matt and his friend Mitty Paul for helping us with the flyers and posters. Was life-saving stuff they did. I was racking my head for months over about a flyer design and just how to get it done. And they were able to help me punch it out in like 2 weeks. It was incredible. All right. Today, we're going to talk about one song and one album and one comic. The song and album are from the same band. We're going to talk about Rare Americans. They're a rock and roll band. They're very punk inspired. They share a lot of elements with more punk rock, old punk rock music and such. But I wouldn't exactly call them punk rock. But that's just getting nerdy, nitpicky about genres. The album we're talking about today by them is their second album, The Rare Americans 2, which is probably their most well-known album out of all their works. And the song is from their newest album called My Year, which is what we're going to be opening up with. We're going to briefly graze over that. The comic we're talking about is one of my personal favorite comics, Inhibit. Ballpark, say we're going to go over the first 10, 11 chapters. I know that sounds short, but this is like traditional comic. It's available online. But each chapter is like 10 to 30 pages worth of stuff. So we're going to be talking about the main character of Inhibit, which is Victor. We'll give a little bit of a background on that. And we're going to be talking about Brittle Bones Nikki, which is the main character that we follow throughout most of Rare American's second album. But let's jump right into it. So, what I'm about to read off here is the chorus from the song My Year. And it goes like this. Gonna shoot my shot. I'm gonna find my worth. Gonna buckle down and commit to learn. Gonna ante up, come with thirst. And I know I gave it all when worse comes to worse. That's all we're gonna talk about. I want you to remember this as we're talking about this. Keep this in your head because we're gonna come back to it. So, Rare Americans 2 opens up with probably the most iconic song in their discography, Brittle Bones Nikki. Brittle Bones Nikki follows a child that was born into a very poor household. Father's a murderer, killed his mother, and he's put into the foster care system where he's basically moving in between houses and stuff and is forced into a life of crime. Very tiny guy. How would I say it? Rare Americans, they're musicians, they're a band. However, their biggest format of storytelling, most of their music are narrative songs. Most of them are narrative songs. Uh, if you're at all interested in their music, do not just listen to the albums. Most of these songs, most of their albums are entirely animated music videos. So if you want more on the story of these characters that we're talking about today, please go check out their YouTube channel. I'll put a link to the song Brittle Bones Nicky in the description of the video. Oh yeah, for first-time viewers here in the cafe, we have a YouTube and Spotify, Marvels of Audio. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube. Those are the only platforms it's currently on right now. We do have an Instagram where I post stories on there frequently. Little announcements, little tidbits about episodes and stuff. So, if you like what you hear, go check it out. Or if you don't, that's okay. As long as you check out the music I recommend, that's a win for me. But, Brittle Bones Nicky. So, as I said here, we follow this guy. It follows him throughout his childhood to his late 20s. In the music video, it actually follows him throughout his entire livelihood. He's thrown into a little foster care, and he's jumping between house and house, orphanage and orphanage. And the song starts off with talking about their parents' crimes and unfortunate passing and such. And in the first house he's put into, there's this big kid that tries to start a tussle with him, intimidate him and all that. Walks up to him and calls him Brittle Bones Nicky. And our little guy, our little dude Nicky, is not having any of that. So what he does is he grabs the pie, slams it in the dude's face, and he just collapses. And he just starts kicking into him. That is the first start of the little troubling life of Nicky. After that, we follow the story of Nicky within this 3 to 4 minute song of him just committing crimes, starting a circle of bulls, as he puts it. Just a little gang, essentially, doing crime, doing drugs. Don't do drugs, kids. Don't be like Brittle Bones Nicky. Don't be like this little fella here. But eventually, it all catches up to him. He gets arrested. He gets put in jail, and the second half of the song is mostly following his life in prison. Sentenced to life is what we can assume here. He meets a guy named Hank. Calls him Sharp and Witty, and we begin to explore their relationship a little bit. And he begins to open up to the audience about this guy in prison is the first ever friend he's ever made, and such. And it was interesting because none of that is ever referenced or brought up in this song. And even with the friends he made in the orphanage, the friends he made in his gang, it's only within prison where he meets this like old dying man. He really starts to open up. And there's the last stretch of the song where he gets into a prison fight, and his poor little friend Hank, he's old, he's frail, he cannot keep up. Poor guy is getting the living hell beat out of him. And it starts playing, if there's anything I'm going to do, with not verbatim, not word for word, forgive me. But the line follows along, it's like, if I'm going to do something worthwhile, I'm going to save my only friend. And it's from here you can infer that this is the first choice he's ever made for essentially someone other than himself, for something that will benefit someone else, but in a way also benefit him in a very positive manner. What I'm getting at here is the song, we follow Nicky's course of life, and it's just bad choice after bad choice after bad choice, doing the best he can to get out of this poor predicament he was born into since day one. He was put into this earth, essentially. Brittle Bones Nicky is an unfortunate soul just born into poor circumstances, and not born with unfortunate circumstances. We'll get onto that later in the episode. But he makes choices to push on, to push forward, essentially. And whether it's for the better or the worst, he refuses to let this break him down. The chorus in the song goes along the lines, I'm not going to let you put me down. That's the chorus in all the intervals. That's how a chorus works. Sorry, stumbled on my words a little there. But, so that's kind of what I want to send forward with the rest of this is choice. Choice is a very big thing in adversity. We've talked a lot about this. We've talked about it in the hard work episode. We've talked about this in the happy fits episode. We're kind of grazing over a lot of old topics here, but trust me, we'll send it home here in a second. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, we've talked about our friend Brittle Bones Nikki. How does that song end? It ends with him showing near the end of his life. Old man, out of prison, just enjoying his day. And it ends off with I didn't win the game of life, but I'd give myself a pass. You know, he didn't live his best life, but it was good enough. And, you know, that's all we really need. Nothing's got to be perfect. It just has to be good enough. And that's the first song on the album. The next few songs we're going to talk about are kind of songs that kind of reinforce that idea of, you know, you got to make choices, take it life by the reins. You just don't take it laying down. Songs we're going to talk about is Ryan and Dave, Gas Mask, No Easy Roads. And then we're going to gloss a little bit over the last song in the track, which is Brittle Bones Nikki's 2. It follows a continuation of our little protagonist here, in a sense. But what we're first going to start out with is Ryan and Dave. So, when you're dealing with something tough, how do you overcome this? The number one thing I always tell people if you're dealing with anything is you got to have a buddy. You got to have a support system. Yeah, some problems you can deal with by yourself. Some you just can't. But whether it's the other or the another, the support system helps you tremendously. Ryan and Dave follows a song of about two childhood friends. One has an off switch, the other one doesn't. Basically, I completely forgot who is who, so if I get this wrong, my bad. So, Ryan, we're going to say he's the one with the off switch. Dave is the one without an off switch. Dave comes to Ryan nearing their adulthood. They've known each other since they were born. Dave, drug addict, struggling to go to detox and all that, and he always reaches out to his buddy Ryan for cash for you know what. Ryan puts his foot down and says, no, you got to go to detox. I'm not going to strap you any cash for that. And essentially, the song's pretty, you know, it's pretty simple, surface level stuff. We follow Dave struggling to choose between continuing this life of substance abuse or does he commit to detox? And we get to the end of the song where he talks about he looks back at the van Ryan drives, making the decision. It was just like, this is the only guy that's been with me through everything despite all the horrible stuff I've done in my life. And it's that little thought that gives him the push. He doesn't just want to do it for himself. He wants to do it for his friend. Just like Brittle Bones Nicky saved his buddy's life, Hank, in that little prison fight. He wants to do it for his friend, not just for himself. It's not the friends that support their support that helps you get through some of this stuff sometimes. It's knowing you have friends and you want to be able to do it for them. It can help a lot. You get a lot of mileage out of that. The next song we're going to talk about is No Easy Roads. This is probably my favorite song in the track. And you could already garner an idea from this. What the song's about is that life's hard. Life sucks. It's never going to be easy. Sometimes things aren't going to work out. We follow this unnamed character where he brings a child into this world essentially at a very early age. I believe it's referenced in the song that it's as early as 17 or 18, where he has to take care of this child. The mother, after the child is born, uh, vanishes off the face of the earth, disappears. And most of the song is following the challenges of our dude, our protagonist, our guy, being a single father and trying to find this mother. By the end of the song, I'm just going to tell you, they don't find the mother. However, it's more of coming to terms with an alternative of such as the protagonist we follow in this song. He comes to the end of the song realizing is just, I'm just gonna have to do this myself. It's not gonna be easy. It's gonna be hard, and I don't think I'll ever get a chance to breathe. But it'll all be worth it. It'll all be worth it to do it for this little kid I got here. The little chorus that goes on in the song is supposed to be a little foreshadowing of that ending, where every time we get to the chorus, it just goes, I know there's no easy roads. You know, a lot of times we can acknowledge that. We can just be like, this is going to suck. This is going to be hard. It's like if you've ever worked a double, you wake up that morning, you're like, I know it's going to suck. That does not make it suck any less though. However, when you finish that shift, when you get home, you sit down in that chair and you're satisfied. You got through that shift. You made a big fat check. It's satisfying. It's rewarding. It still sucked, and it still sucks afterwards probably. But you got through it. That's kind of the whole thing with the lack of, there's no easy roads. All right. Gas Mask. What is Gas Mask about? This isn't my favorite song. It's right up there with No Easy Roads. Barely gets over there, but I very much like the message. Now, I hope we all remember what I said earlier in the episode about my year. The little chorus, shooting my shot, up the ante, buckle down. No, I gave it all when worse comes to worse. Now, remember what I just said about there's no easy roads. We can say that to ourselves, but that doesn't change anything. You still got to do it, and it's still gonna suck. What does Gas Mask follow? This is one of their very rare, not narrative songs. It's a much more thematic. Well, there is a music video about it. However, it's one of the few music videos I haven't seen, actually. So I kind of feel bad saying that. Fake fan over here, boo. But regardless of that, Gas Mask is a song about people being troubled by their past. And everyone at whatever age it is, you look... For a great example is, you'll probably look back at something you did in middle school. It was really embarrassing. It's just like, oh, I can't do that. I can't believe I did that. I was such a dum-dum. Wow. So embarrassing. What the heck, Dalen? Wow. A lot of times, even if it's something little like that, it kind of plants something in the back of your head. Little bit of the unconscious part of your brain, the subconscious. And if you ever do something that reminds you of that, you remember that little embarrassing moment, and you're a little hesitant to do it. Say it's something bigger. Say you did something to hurt someone, and you're in a situation where in the past you hurt someone, and what you're doing right now is a very possible reality. Pops back into your head, you're very, very hesitant to do it again. The chorus of this song is, you got today, you got to do what you say. I should put this out there on the word. There is a lot of swearing in their songs. I'm not going to quote it. I've tried to keep swearing to a minimum on here. But I do want to preface that if you plan on showing this band to any of your kids. Band's really great with their kids. I've seen some of their concerts. But I do want to put a forewarning there. But that's what it is. Don't be chained by your past. If you tell yourself you're gonna do something, if you tell yourself you're gonna shoot your shot, you're gonna buckle down, commit to learn, or come with thirst, or whatever it is, you've got to do it. It's like I said in the hard work episode. It's one foot in front of the other, day by day. It sucks. It's hard. But every little bit you do, it gets a bit easier until you look back and you're like, wow, I can't believe I thought it was so hard back then. I can't believe I was freaking out over this, man. Whoa. It's that little moment of Sonder. It's not hard anymore when you finally get it done. When it's done, it's over with, it's not hard anymore. You don't have to deal with it. It's that simple. Now, don't take this literally. Just like, oh, just go do it. That would be completely disregarding everything I just said. Where find a support system. You need to know it's not going to be easy. And it's not just those two things. However, I only have so much time to talk on these episodes. But please recognize is not just go and do it one foot in front of the other. I know that's the BS stuff you hear in like every mainstream media or like self-support stuff. It's a lot more deeper than that. It's a lot more intricate. But what I'm saying is there is some way, there is some system, there is something that can help you make it a little easier to take that first step forward. That's what Gasmack basically kind of sends home. I think of all the songs in this album where it's about a choice, friendship, and all that. I think the song that really sends home. There's all these songs that make up the bulk of it, but if I had to say what's the glue that keeps it all together, I would say it's Gas Mask. That's like the most important song I believe in this album. All right, Brittle Bones, Nicky 2. We follow Nicky in the afterlife. He's on his way to heaven. He meets a little demon imp dude. I think his name's also Hank, I believe. And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to heaven, awesome!" And then it does like the whole like little staircase to heaven, and boop, it breaks. If you've ever seen Tom and Jerry, he goes down to hell, and he's like, "What the hell's going on? Why? I want to go to heaven and see my ma." And then the god and devil is just like, "No, dude, you lived an awful life. You made some awful choices. You hurt a lot of people. You can't do that." And that's when Nicky says, I did the best I could with the hand I was dealt with. I'm not going to go any further into that song. But I want to stay focused on that. I did the best with the hand I was dealt with. And sometimes, maybe even most of the time, that is the case. But remember what I said about telling ourselves these things. It's very important that we don't fully believe these things. I know what I just said is very contradictory. However, we talked a lot about Brittle Bones Nicky. He was born into awful circumstances and made choices. Even though he didn't let adversity get the better of him, he did not make the best choices. I want to talk about the other side of this now. Inhibit. We're going to talk about Inhibit. We're going to talk about Victor. Victor Allen. He's the main character of our, I almost said show, of our little comic here. Inhibit by Eve G. One of my favorite comic artists. If I'm correct, I believe they took a graphic novels class in Dundee. Like Scotland Dundee. Not Dundee, Australia. Crocodile Dundee. But, Victor is the main character of our story. Inhibit is a story of superpowered people called variants and variations. Variant is the person with powers. Variation was kind of power they have. Sorry. Allergies are getting me. Bear with me here. But, this, from the very first few pages, we can get the idea of, Victor. He's in some kind of housing. He's away from his family, And he absolutely hates his life. He's 17 years old, turning 18 soon in the comic. And he's got baggy eyes, a very slouched demeanor, hands in his pockets, always looking down, not having a good time, very obviously. In this world, there are people with powers, as I told you. However, it takes the perspective of, like, not everyone can control these powers, so they have to go through training very early on. We're just going to focus on that. There's this whole thing about people losing their powers eventually, and they go off to live normal lives or whatever. That would be in the territory of massive spoilers, though. But we're going to focus on just Victor himself. He lives in this housing with his two friends, Julia and David. Victor can control electricity. Julia can control ice, can produce ice, and David has super hearing. He has hypersense. They are in a housing facility meant for people that in childhood could not learn to control their powers. So in their teenage years, they are put into different housings to help them learn how to control these powers, so they can enter society without harming others. Victor has no control over these powers. His electro manipulation sparks out when he's stressed, angry, or whatever, and it hurts the people around him. He has to wear these little things on his arms that suppress that. And his friend Julia has ice powers. However, she has lost several limbs due to not being able to control those powers. Lost a leg, lost a ton of her fingers. She's essentially crippled because she couldn't control it, and she ended up freezing most of her body parts off. It's awful. It's tragic. David just can't live life normally without, hearing aids, because his hearing is so sensitive that just the smallest whisper could burst his eardrums. But what is the line I'm drawing here between Brittle Bones Nikki and Victor here? As I told you before, Nikki was born into poor circumstances and made his choices. Victor was born with poor circumstances, and because of that, was put into poorer circumstances. However, where Nikki, even though he didn't make the best choices, he did the best he could. Victor, we follow a character that he doesn't take responsibility, he doesn't take accountability, he doesn't do anything. He blames everyone around him, he blames his parents. Not to say the people he blames aren't at fault. There are some pretty awful adults in his life. But his trainer, from when he was a kid, his parents, some of the people at his facility, they're not good. They're not exactly the best to him, but they try their best to help him through this. And every time he's given a chance he's given an ounce of kindness, an ounce of empathy, or whatever it may be, he lashes out. He lashes out angrily. His electricity goes crazy, and he ends up literally hurting the people around him, physically and emotionally. It is not until he's given an opportunity to... These are spoilers right now I'm about to go into. I know I just didn't say I would do that, but I am quite often a liar on this podcast. So, forewarning. But the podcast is full of liars. Sorry. But Victor is given an opportunity by someone to finally lose his powers. And in that very moment, where he's finally given a chance to lose his powers, fix his life, his powers, he essentially considers them a disability. Instead of giving them up, he chooses to keep his powers. Because at that moment, he recognizes that I need these powers still to be able to help those around me. That's kind of at the very point where he finally begins to realize, wow, I can't just keep sitting around and waiting for things to happen, because things that keep happening just aren't good, because I'm not doing anything. Now, I've essentially told you the beginning and end. What about the middle? I've told you a little bit about the middle. Throughout the series, we see all of his friends, amazing people, helping him out, trying to help him out. And as we get closer to that end I just told you, which is in the later chapters, slowly, Victor begins to finally lose these friends. And some of them even start working against him. People that he's known essentially most of his childhood aren't helping him. They're make they're either helping him, putting him down, or talking down to him. There is a scene where he is put into a program to become a trainee to get his license to enter society again. And through that, he meets an old friend of his who's very adept with her powers. Very great. But she doesn't know that Victor isn't adept with this. Now, I'm about to draw a real live example here. Nothing too specific. However, this lady he meets, an old friend, is Masha. There's a scene where they're driving, and Victor gets stressed out, so he starts to spark uncontrollably because he doesn't have like these inhibitors that he wears. She stops the van, throws him out. It's just like, what the hell is going on with you? You got to get yourself together. And that's where he drops the ball, where it's just like, I actually don't know how to use my powers. Masha's response, who's supposed to be his friend, supposed to be supportive, supposed to be caring, instead of, being supportive, she instead lashes out, being like, I can't believe you still haven't done this yet. I still can't believe you're having trouble with this. Even though they both had to learn how to control these powers, or else it would cripple their day-to-day lives. She made fun of him for it. She talked down on him. What is the real-life comparison here? You're going to go through problems. You're going to go through troubles. And there are 8 billion people on this earth. There are a good, I would say, handful of people you will probably meet in your lifetime that have dealt with the same things as you, have probably gotten over whatever you're currently dealing with. And sometimes they'll be very supportive. Sometimes they will be the exact opposite. They'll ridicule you. And the important thing to do is do what Victor does later on in this series, which is he cuts this woman out of his life. When I talked earlier about adversity, when I talked about Ryan and Dave, you need a support system. At the same time, what you don't need is people that are going to be against that. Because the best way to swim upstream is to not even swim up that stream at all. You just got to walk on the side. You don't want anything pushing you back. You already got enough on your plate. So if you got people that are against that, they got to go. That's what I really like about Victor. Because even though he doesn't consciously acknowledge it until much later into the series, we begin to see this man who's been broken down by the challenges thrown at him and slowly finally crawl back up into getting to the starting line, not getting to living a better life finally, like we see Nikki finally get to the end of his life being like, oh, it's great, I'm okay with what I did. We see Victor struggle to get to the very beginning of that. But that's okay. Now, you could make the argument, it's like, oh, wow, Dalen, these are 2 different mediums. It's like, oh, that's all done in a 4-minute song. This is a comic that's been running for 10 years. Of course, of course it's going to start out like that. It's like, I don't care. What matters is yes, I acknowledge these are 2 different mediums. However, the characters are still there. And it's through these mediums they can tell these certain stories, these certain character arcs, and such. With a comic, you just can't start off the character being like, oh, wow, I'm going to just do whatever I can, have fun, and like Nikki, It doesn't make for a good story. Or like Victor, you can't turn his entire character arc into like a 5-minute song. Unless you're Pink Floyd, you turn into a 10-minute song. Shine on, you crazy diamond. I don't know. But regardless of medium, there's still the story, and it's still being told, and there's still something to take from it. There's still something to take from all that. I really like these 2. I really like these two characters. Because I relate a lot to it. 2024 sucked. It was a bad year. I tell everyone it was the worst year of my life. But then everyone's like, wow, Dalen, what do you mean by that? It was great. It was a great. You look fantastic. You look great. I took an awful year and I made the best of what I could for it. I broke records. I did not let it break me. And that's all I ask that you acknowledge. Like I said earlier, I can't just tell you to do it and you just do it. There's a lot more that goes to that. What I'm doing here, what I hope for this podcast is I want to get you to where Victor is. I want you to get to the starting line. That's the whole idea. It's much different. It's much different. Like I said, adversity is an opportunity. It's not really. I don't view it as a challenge. I view it as an opportunity, and it is an opportunity given to Victor to better himself, to get himself to that starting line. It is up to him now to get to that happy ending he wants. It's kind of the whole point of this podcast. It's the whole point of this episode. I'm helping you find that foundation. I'm not helping you build the house. As I've said before, at best you take this as advice. At worst, you take this as music or comic recommendations. But where does that leave? So where does that leave us? Where does that leave us? We've talked about Victor. We've talked about Lil Brittlebones Nikki. So what of it? That's all there is. You know, that's their conclusions. Nikki, he didn't win the game of life, but he gives himself his pass. Victor, you know, he wasted a lot of his teenage years, you know, doing nothing. But, you know, better to start late than never. And it's not about the story isn't about where Victor's going to end up, but it's about following how he gets there, essentially. And however he gets there is up to his decisions. And hopefully, he makes the right decisions. He hasn't made the right decisions a lot before, but that just kind of comes with the territory, with learning. So, just be careful with the choices you make. Just be careful how you approach them. Make sure it's healthy. Make sure you got support, whether it's friends, something else, or something entirely different I haven't even talked about on this. Like I said, you don't have to swim upstream. You just have to walk on the side. It's that simple. But that's all we're going to have here today. We're going to wrap it up here. Before we get into conclusions, I'm going to make a recommendation, as I always do. The recommendation I'm going to leave that's befitting of this episode, I believe, is I'm recommending a single song, Adversary by On Video. I will have the Spotify link in the YouTube channel and the Spotify when these episodes come out. Of course, this will be posted on March 27th, or 28th, next Friday. By the time this episode's posted, we will already be recording the next episode. The next episode is going to be about happiness. Ooh la la, sunshines, lollipops, and rainbows, and blah, 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 blah. That's what we're going to be talking about. This recommendation is going to have no correlation with next week's episode. But I think it will help send home some more ideas or understanding with everything we talked about today. And as I said, if you don't care about what I talked about today, at least go read Inhibit or check out Rare Americans. They're both great, incredible musicians, writers, artists. Check out Rare Americans music videos. Check out Eve G's comic on Webtoons. It's on Webtoons. You can read it for free. They have a website as well. I'll post that in the link as well. But as I've said, thank you for coming. If you want to check out more of this stuff, there's the Marvels of Audio Spotify. There's the Marvels of Audio YouTube. That's all up. If you want to keep up to date with all this stuff, follow the Instagram. And with that, thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.